minute. They call it a deep because there's 3 different sizes of frames. There's the deep size, which is the largest frame. Then they have this, most supers are mediums. These look like smalls. Medium would be this size. I think this is called a super. It's used primarily for honey. The deeps are used for brood and for their honey to get through the winter. We never touch these as far as extraction for bees. When they're producing a ton of honey, then we put supers on the hive, and these are full of smaller frames.
What's that?
They're lighter, they're smaller, they're easier to pick up, they're easier to extract. That's why everybody goes with something smaller. And you can stack these one on top of the other. For having a really good season. We've seen hives with 5 of them on. And they're getting honey from all of them. These look like really small frames. I don't know anybody that uses that size.
Unless you're doing comb honey.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Yeah, we did comb honey, and they're small, they're only like 4-inch.
This is a queen excluder. This, you will usually go between your brood box where all the eggs and larvae and pupa are and all the bees live. And between here and your honey supers. I think super is short for superstructure. These supers are primarily for honey production, and what a queen excluder does is it keeps your queen down in the bottom of the box. It keeps her from laying eggs up in your supers, because you don't want brood up in here, because then you know that's just for honey. We have a selection of different ones, different queen excluders. They come in all different sizes, all different materials. That's a metal one. I prefer those. They're very durable. They also come in plastic.
The openings are big enough for a honeybee to get through, but not no.
These are flexible. These are nice and flat. They're very, also very durable. These will clog this with propolis and burr comb, and you do need to clean these every so often. That's a nice new one. Normally they don't look like that. But that'll go between your supers and your brood box.
How often do you have to clean that?
It depends, the bees will coat them with propolis, which is like a sticky substance they make from tree sap. It's kind of what they use to glue their hives together, and if they were in a tree, they use it to fill in any gaps. So sometimes certain hives just use more propolis than others, you know, there's no like set.
Depends on the bees.
Depends on the bees, the time of year. Sometimes they'll have it so glued together, you can't hardly get your hives apart.
They glue everything together.
Yeah.
This was really shocking the very first time we did our very first inspection. They're very quick, they're very thorough. They glue the frames together, they glue the frames to the box, they glue the boxes together. It's unreal.
Usually when you go in and do a hive inspection, they'll do all their frames and the edges. You take your hive tool and you do a quick cleanup, because otherwise it just continues to build up and it's sticky.
To finish this is called an inner cover. I like to screen mine. They have a vent on them usually. Most of them are in the front, some are on the sides. A lot of people like top vents on their hive. They like a little bit of flow through ventilation, heat rises, so just a lot of the humidity. It helps bees dissipate a lot of high humidity and moisture. I don't particularly care for them. I do use the inner covers, but I screen them because we have a lot of other insects who are also trying to get in and get your bees honey. And they're trying to get your larvae and your eggs and your pupa and all that stuff too. So I screen that. And normally I'll put masking tape across the front. I don't like top entrances. That's your inner cover. This is your, what they call a telescoping cover. It doesn't actually telescope. I don't really know why they call it that. But it's a cover that goes over the edges, and as you raise your hive, this cover still goes over all the boxes. I always got a ton of moisture and mold on the inside of my cover, so I started using styrofoam. Styrofoam keeps the cold away from the inside where your bees are. And I have not had any problem with moisture or mildew or mold or anything like that since I started using that. Hive tools, holy moly. If you're gonna do this,
Don't buy one.
buy Cynthia's. You will misplace them constantly. I can't tell you. There's all kinds of different ones. There's this kind with a J hook and a flat pry bar and a scraper on the end. That's very common. There's this kind with a L shape on it. That's also very nice. This is my favorite one because it has all of those things. It has all of those things in one. I mean, if you're gonna have one, you might as well. This part you use for, I don't know if you can see this. You'll have to separate all these boxes because they are gonna be all glued together. Am I lying, Walt?
You're right.
I don't know why they don't bevel these corners just a little bit, they can get the tools in, but you will be cracking these open with some considerable force. So you could sometimes do it this way, but I prefer to do it this way. And you don't want to hammer on it, like with a hammer or whatever, that upsets your bees. Everything upsets your bees. If it's cloudy, that upsets your bees. If you're eating a banana.
You wanna try and be as gentle as you can, it's not always
Yes.
easy.
Be gentle, be quick, go in with a specific goal in mind. I think our first inspection took an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Which is probably about an hour and 15 minutes too long. Because we were just like, oh, look, there's bees hatching, this is amazing, honey, look, there's bees hatching. I think there's eggs in here. It was like, oh my gosh. It was like a Walt Disney movie, we couldn't stop. And the bees were all over the place and they're swarming all over and we're totally oblivious to it. You want to get in, you want to see what you need to see very quickly and you want to get out with disturbing them as little as possible. When you,
One thing, these are known as Langstroth hives,
right,
and we'll, after we do a couple tools, we're gonna get into the other ones. The main advantage to these is those frames. Because if you use like, say, this top bar hive that's coming up next, you can't use a honey extractor. Or it'll just blow all the frames apart,
because it has wire frames.
because there's no. Those, once you'll see when we do an extraction, once you cut the capping off, you can put those in there and spin the honey out. And it leaves probably 80% of the comb there. So the bees don't have to start from scratch again,
Next year, yeah,
or
late in the season.
in a late in the season.
Yeah.
So those actually are the most popular hives for honey production.
All the sizes are standard. A deep frame will fit any other Langstroth deep frame.
Yeah.
Same thing with.
Pretty much,
Yeah,
depending on where you get them. And there's also 10 frame and 8 frame hives. Those are 10s, right? You have there?
these are tens. That's a very good point. They're 10 frames wide. Each box will hold 10 frames. And they also make 8 frame equipment, which is slightly smaller. A lot of people like the 8 frame equipment because it's just slightly lighter. In the old days, you know, we don't do it this way, but a lot of people used to pull the whole supers off box by box, you know, and because they were very heavy, we removed
Yeah.
frame by frame.
That 10 frame super full of honey might weigh 80 pounds.
Yeah, you have to be in pretty good shape. This part of the tool we use for separating, I use it for separating frames from each other when they're all stacked next to each other inside the box. I'll separate the one side, separate the other side, and then this, I love this, Jacob. You use this, or I do. Put it underneath the edge of the frame. It's still even stuck here, and you wedge it against another frame and it pops your frame up and you can grab it. Very, very handy. Oh, you brought 2 different colors.
Yeah,
This is what everybody used to use. This is what everybody's moving to now. Obviously, they're very different colors. This is what everybody started with. I'm not sure why they picked this color. This makes it
Because it
almost
looks like
impossible
wax.
to see eggs
Yeah.
and stuff down inside your brood cells and all that jazz. If you're looking for eggs to see if your queen is laying and everything's healthy, a black background, a black foundation, this is called foundation fits inside your frame. A black foundation is the way to go. They cost the same, we're switching over to all black on our stuff. That's hive tools. I'm serious, more than one or two, because she'll come in with two, I'll come in with two, and we still can't figure out where we left them. When we put them. It's,
Some people are too. I come in with two, I leave with none.
I saw somebody had magnets sewn on the inside of their bee suit, and they just stuck it to the side, and I thought, wow, that'd be pretty handy.
Smart idea.
I haven't done it yet. Did you wanna talk about, apparel?
You wanna continue with the
Mike, why don't you-
PowerPoint? You wanna do the PowerPoint? I think you've got it.
I will fill in temporarily. On to the next one. Did you want to talk about the top bar hive? Did you already talk about that?
This lady is experienced in it. I've
Well, it's
never
not quite
seen one in
top bar
person.
hive. So the Langstroth is the most popular one, at least in our area.
Right.
They're easier, like I said, all the different parts and easier to get through with the winters. And then they have the plastic foundation that you can use. But also the top bar hive, is kind of, there's usually, I think there's three that are the most popular. So this one, it's horizontal and it's just at the top part of it. So like this frame here, it would just have the top bar on it, and then the bees would naturally build their comb out. So that's why they call it a top bar.
Usually have a little tiny starter strip of foundation.
Yep.
The bees produce their comb off of that. There's no foundation supporting any of that.
Yep, and you just keep adding them, so they're kind of long, oops, they're long, and then this, because they're building, it's wax foundation, so you can't reuse them, so usually you would either squish the wax down and extract the honey that way, or you can melt it down and you can, use it for different things, like we make beeswax candles, but then the bees are, they're spending a lot of extra effort with doing the wax and, building their comb back out instead of reusing it like we would with the plastic foundation.
It takes them like 8 pounds, approximately 8 pounds of honey to make a pound of wax. So it's always fun too, squashing the comb. Get it all over your hands. So those, do you know anybody that has a top bar hive? I know a couple people and they do get, I think they're tougher to overwinter in this climate. Yeah, I think. I don't know why, because. Like Shannon and I do cutouts and we take an awful lot of bees out of soffits. And basically that's what they look like in a soffit of a house. And they seem to winter fine,
Yeah.
but something about. I mean, obviously down south, Virginia, any place like that, those work really good, but. Again, the disadvantage is, every time you take honey, now the bees have to start again. So the next one is. That's what you have, right? One of these? Ma'am,
No,
No.
he has the one.
oh, you have the long hive, okay. These, I'm not real familiar, I don't know anybody that has one of these.
Me either.
Same thing, I think they're for a little bit warmer of a climate. As a beginner, I would suggest the Langstroth hive for at least your first couple of years until you get a little bit. You know, it's the equipment standard, you can pretty much get it anywhere. Almost any beekeeper around here is gonna be familiar with them.
Runnings sells this stuff.
Yeah, I haven't looked at theirs to see how they,
It's a little pricey, but
yeah, you can get, you can get stuff anywhere, while we're on that subject. You can buy your hives already assembled. Or. You can buy right here. Unassembled hives. And as long as you got some wood glue, and either some nails or an air stapler. Just they fit together like a puzzle piece.
You don't have to do any machining. It comes already machined.
right.
Yeah, it comes all cut. So you just. Tight.
It's easier when nobody's watching.
Well, no,
And a
these
hammer.
ones are-
He never really.
How much does that cost?
These, I bought this one at, Masterson's Garden Center in East Aurora. I think it was like $18 or $19. I think you pay to buy them already assembled, you pay another $5 or $6. And if you buy 4 hives, you can buy an extra one with the savings of putting them together yourself.
Yeah,
I actually make my own with the finger joints, but right now the lumber prices are so high, I can't even make them for what you can buy. So I'm just, you don't need to get fancy. We just bought the unassembled one, put them together, and the frames are the same way. You can buy frames and same thing. There's nothing to them. The frames, I like an air stapler, you can use nails. And then all you do is your foundation slides right out. So you just buy your foundation, you just slide it in. Clip them in.
I actually made a jig at home for assembling 10 frames at one time. And it holds them under pressure and you put glue on everything. Put all pieces together, go down with the stapler, pop, 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 pop. It makes doing it so much faster.
Yeah,
Instead of doing it like one at a time.
Yeah.
You can do them in quantity and I think I put about 100 of them together that way.
probably an hour or less.
Maybe a day or. I'm old, okay. Old and I'm old.
How many people here have bees already or are gonna get bees? You have bees? Okay,
They made it through the winter.
oh,
The-
good.
The
Awesome.
bees before did not, and she lives on, well, and the bees live on Camp Street Extension, which is on a major hill. And I was also wondering if,
Our neighbor had a bear incident,
Oh,
but we're gonna have to figure something out.
Do you
they
have
gotta
an
get an
electric
electric fence. They can smell honey from miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do,
Well,
it's just a big
congratulations,
pasture.
keeping through the winter.
Yeah,
That's one of the toughest things in this
Yeah.
climate is,
but I think it's cause it was such a light winter.
yeah, it was pretty.
The winter before it was.
to be honest with you,
It's
the
spring.
up and down temperatures like we've had are actually tougher on the bees.
Yes,
Because when it's colder, they stay clustered up, they don't burn as much energy. When they go in and out, I think most of our losses we've ever had were in March. Because you get that day on 65 degrees out and the bees are all out flying around. And they go back in the hive and all of a sudden the temperature drops down to 20 overnight and they don't recluster quick enough. And it kills them that and moisture. But
it goes into the 60s or whatever, and they're out flying around, they're trying to collect stuff. The queen thinks, oh, spring is here, she's starting to lay brood, lay eggs all over the place. So the cluster now spreads out and is spreading out throughout the hive, trying to keep all that brood warm. I mean, that's what bees are constantly sacrificing themselves for the next generation. And that's where the fluctuation up and down when you're spring weather, that's where they die.
that's where,
Once they're spread out covering all that brood, they're not gonna recluster and then it gets cold again for another week and then your bees are dead, you know.
that's probably the biggest. I would say, if you asked 80 beekeepers, I'll bet you 70 of them lose most of their hives in that time of year, that late March.
We haven't taken our insulation off our hives yet.
Not yet.
I mean, it was 29 the other night.
I know.
I just looked at ours today and they were pretty pollen in.
Did you have to feed your
They are.
bees a lot this winter and spring?
What was
Did
the
you
question?
notice a lot of energy getting burned because they're out?
We haven't actually checked, but we make candy boards, which is like a big sugar cube. We have a board that is, no, I don't think we did. And the sugar is about this thick and it's packed really hard. And they go up there and they can feast on the sugar. Plus we leave honey frames in our hive. We would sacrifice getting honey for ourselves
Definitely,
to make sure that the hive survives.
yeah.
But candy boards,
We just use dry sugar.
Yeah,
Or
well,
fondant,
yeah.
you can use fondant.
We don't like to mix anything with the sugar because bees can't fly out in the winter time to go to the bathroom, which they do. So if you're feeding them pollen patties and junk like that have all kinds of other things in it, they need to excrete that. And they can get dysentery and stuff like that inside the beehive. But feeding them pure, clean sugar, like Mike does dry sugar, we do cane sugar, we just mix it with a little water so that it's like. You like play sand, like on the beach, we pack it into the candy boards, put it by the wood burning stove and let it dry out for 3 or 4 days. And it becomes like a solid brick, and then that sits right in the top here. So the bees have access up through the center and they just eat from the center all the way out if they need that, if they run short of honey. But it's this very.
We just use dry sugar and then any
Yeah.
moisture that gets into the hive turns it into a brick.
Yeah, exactly.
And moisture also is a big killer of bees in the winter time because
Yes,
they can't dry themselves off. So once they get wet.
Right.
And so,
pure cane sugar is pure energy. There's no extraneous chemicals that they have to excrete. So it's much better for them to get through the winter feeding them just clean sugar. But if there's a joke that goes, if you ask 10 beekeepers for their opinion on a single subject, you'll get 20 different opinions. And so everybody you talk to that's been doing it for a while does it differently.
Right.
Some people put vinegar in with their candy boards and they put pollen substitutes in and they mix essential oils in and they do all these different things. We don't, we do a bare minimum type natural as possible. We try not to treat too much with chemicals. We try not to help them too much. But with the same insulation that we put on the top, we put on the sides. And for the winter time, and like Anita said, we haven't taken it off yet, till the temperature stabilizes. But what we find that, and this may not always be true, all of our hives have survived every single winter, knock on wood, that keeps happening. It's like,
Pardon?
you know, it's so everybody has to find their own way and everybody's gotta find their own, what works for them and what works for them in their area. And, you know, what works for us isn't gonna work for Mike and Shannon. They live in a totally different area than we do. We live in the woods. We have 52 acres. That's all woods. So
We
springtime,
don't have a lot.
flowering trees is a big push for us. That's when our bees really go mental and like literally right now. This is when they're going into big production, and then the rest of the year, we try to keep them alive from starving to death. And keep predators from robbing them out. Mike's situation, Mike and Shannon's is gonna be totally different, and so will yours.
yeah, the one thing I would suggest, is, especially if you're just starting out, is, I mean, you can see, there's all kinds of fancy equipment up here. Keep it simple.
Yep.
The first couple of years. There's no need, I mean, you could spend thousands of dollars
Okay.
on all kinds of, oh, let's try this, and does it all work? Maybe. But really, in the beginning, you wanna just keep it simple until you get a feel for what you need, and like Tim said. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. Everybody says you need 2 deep boxes to overwinter. If you look up in Ontario, which is way colder than here,
Yeah,
probably 80% of the beekeepers in Ontario overwinter their hives in single boxes. You know, they feed them real heavy and then they supplemental feed them in the winter. But it's, you just find what works for you.
We also need to touch on YouTube. If you can find a YouTube channel that is in our environment, and there is one, Frederick Dunn, who's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's up in the Buffalo area.
he's more long-winded than I am.
Yeah, his podcasts are like an hour, but he answers questions, but he does. Dunn, D-U-N-N. But he's in our type of climate, so he understands what we're facing, what he's facing. And he has amazing advice, and he does a lot of experiments. I mean, he has an observation hive built into a building where he's actually monitoring it, so. You can look at the people in the south. And they're different.
YouTube is great for your basic stuff.
Yeah.
But obviously, the guy down in Georgia or Florida. he's got a totally different situation than we have up here.
Absolutely. And they're dealing with different problems,
Yeah.
for sure.
So anybody getting hives this year or in the next year or so?
All right.
Okay, well, there's a couple, there's really like basically three different ways to get a hive. Okay, you can get what's called a package of bees. Which is basically you get 3 pounds of bees, they'll come in a little crate with screen on it. And usually you get a mated queen with it. Whether you get the queen marked or not's different. Those, when you start like that, you need to put some type of feed. Because they're not gonna, unless you happen to know someone that has a couple frames of this, but with the wax, which is called drawn comb. They have to start right from scratch, so they're gonna have to build all their wax and everything. So they're gonna need as much supplemental food as you can give them.
Yep.
You guys have
A package,
no, you have
a feeder?
yeah.
Oh, we have
So
several.
the feeders, there's a couple different ways. This is the front feeder. This would go into your hive right down here. So you,
Pros and cons to that.
you would mix 1-to-1 sugar water, so like 1 8-pound bag of sugar or two 4-pound bags of sugar and a gallon of water. You heat it up, don't boil it, just get it enough so the sugar dissolves.
When he says 1-to-1, he means by weight.
So with a package of bees, they might go through this in a day or two.
Yeah, our bees have plowed
And-
through one of those a day.
There's also, where's it? There's what are called frame feeders, so
Pros and cons to that.
this would hold, this one's probably a gallon.
Yeah, it's-
So this would actually take the place of one of the frames inside. And they have a little, this one, they would have a cover with little ladders, so the bees don't just fall in and drown.
I put a piece of wood in there that floats, so they can't.
These work really good. The other option is, that I tend to do. Is you can take your inner cover. Well, there's also these.
I love this one.
This is, it sits on the top here. Of your hive. And
Oh, the top feeder.
obviously they can get up in here, and same thing, it's got the screen so they can crawl on and not fall in.
Would go right on the top.
The other option you can do. Is you can take your inner cover
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and. Kim has his screen, but I don't screen ours,
Cover your
and you
eggs.
can just take a mason jar. And put the lid on it and take a little nail, poke real tiny holes in the lid. And
And they're tiny,
set it up here.
well, you can see them, yeah, but they're,
You can pass it around.
Well, you set your mason jar right here over the hole. And if you have, usually you're gonna buy a hive set up with 2 boxes. When you put a package in, you're only gonna put 1 box until they fill it out.
Right.
So you just take your inner cover would be here, put your second box. On top of the inner cover. So your jar would be here.
Yeah.
Put your second box on, put your lid on it. Now, no predators, nothing can get to your jar of feed.
Right.
And when you go to refill the feeder, you don't have to disturb the hive at all. Just take the top cover off, pick your jar up, refill it, or have a second one and just swap them out.
I use these on occasion, supplemental use. What I find is if you have a hive that's aggressive, and we do. Our aggressive hive has a tendency to steal everybody else's stuff. And so if you put this in and you still leave a small opening with your front entrance reducer, what this little board is, most hives will come with this. You can have a small entrance. Some people do it this way. You have a small entrance, you can flip it, have a much larger entrance, which still allows you to put a frame feeder in and still have a small entrance. Or you can block it off completely if you need to transport it, which this one doesn't seem to be able to do. Whatever. There's pros and cons to each system. I find this, using this more than a couple days generates a ton of robbing in our area. I mean, wasps are coming in, everybody, and the hive can't keep everybody out. They're all coming in the hive and going into your front feeder, but I do use it on occasion.
And you have to fill it frequently, which means you're up there with bees that are not happy.
Yeah, last year I was gonna go up to replace the jars and it was hot. I didn't feel like suiting up. These suits are hot. And I hate being uncomfortable. So I just went up there with nothing on. And they tell you, a lot of this information that we're giving you, you're gonna find in a lot of books. But they tell you, don't stand in front of the hive. Great advice, right? Predators come at the hive from the front and that sets off all the alarm bells with your bees. So I was standing from the back like this, I had the new bottle already, pop this one off, put the new bottle in, and I got 3 stings before I even did that. Sometimes it doesn't take much to set them off.
They've been running to the cabin.
The other thing is. The other thing is when you're starting out and you're trying not to spend a ton of money.
Yeah, that's
Just
very
get a couple ways to there.
cost effective.
This is the most cost effective way right there.
I agree.
Cause these are really nice. I use these too, but these are, how much are these now? They're probably
Oh,
18.
I haven't even priced them out this year.
So. They are nice. I like them. I have them, but
You also got
this is your cheapest method right here. Put it on box and like Tim said, now no other yellow jackets can't get in there, other bees out of other hives can't get in there.
This ledge right here, another great use for your hive tool. This ledge will be all, well, it's going to, where the frame feeder fits in the same way your frames do. They will glue that all up, you'll have to take your hive tools, spray this all out every once in a while, every inspection or so. This is what it looks like when they're all in there. But there isn't a lot of room in between them, and they will fill this space with propolis, and they'll do it quickly. Very quickly.
So then your other option for getting hives is what's called a nucleus hive. So you'll get that, that's usually 5 frames. But you'll get 5 frames. Usually there's 2 frames of eggs and larvae and brood, cat brood. Usually 2 frames of honey and pollen. And the 3rd frame is usually at least started to be drawn out. The advantage to that is the bees are already started.
Right.
So when you get a package, it's gonna be at least a week till they probably, I mean, not a week, but 3 or 4 days till they build enough home for the queen to even start laying eggs. So you're just basically starting from scratch. When you buy a nucleus colony, you already got
It's
like a
mini
jump
hive.
start.
It's like a mini hive, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little more expensive. Around here, you're probably not gonna get it until mid to late May, depending on the weather, on when they can make them. If you get a package like, we got packages coming, what, this Friday?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, right.
if you get a package 3 weeks ahead of the time or a month ahead of the time, you're gonna get a nucleus colony, they're gonna be about the same point. But then again. Starting, if we get our packages Friday and it gets cold,
Yeah,
it's really tough on those bees because they don't have enough resources built up.
Which is why we feed the heck out of them.
Which is why you wanna really, you wanna feed them, usually by the time you get a nucleus, there's enough pollen and nectar sources out.
right.
So you
That's
don't,
my
it
question.
still helps to feed them,
Do you feed a nuke?
you
Typically?
can,
It's like, so Masters, I'm getting a nuke from Masterson.
Okay.
And they're estimating last weekend, well, maybe first weekend in May or second weekend in May.
okay, that's early this year, I
Yeah.
think.
Really.
At least that's the last that I've heard about it, and that's what I wonder, like, am I going to have to? nuke
It,
them?
it never hurts,
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
excellent advice.
Err on the side of caution.
because if they don't need it,
They won't use it.
Yeah, they'll only take the sugar water if they need it. If they don't need it, you'll know because you'll come back and that jar will only have this much out of it in 3 days. If they need it, that jar could be gone the next day.
This is something that you should consider too, it's called pollen substitute. And what Tim did is he took.
PVC tubing,
Yep, and we
made small
put it
entrance,
in there, I mean, I can pass it around to you.
please don't need it. No, you can't.
It's got it, it smells it.
It's completely edible.
But they go through it like crazy.
It's a pollen substitute, which we put out for them the later part of the summer when there's nothing for our bees. I mean, we're surrounded by forests everywhere and there's very little for them other than in spring. Where you live may be totally different. But I'll set up pollen feeders, and pollen substitute feeders. If they want it, they grab it and they swarm it. And then when things are available, like all the trees that are flowering now, they don't touch it. They won't take it if they don't need it,
Right.
but if they do need it, it's there.
So you don't put it in the hive?
No,
I don't put it in the hive, I don't put it in my apiary, but it's close
Yeah,
by.
you probably want it 50, 60, 80 yards away. You don't want it right close to your hives because it, like Tim said, they'll start robbing each other. So you might have a hive, especially if it's not real strong. I've seen it happen where a strong hive comes in there and they take all the honey.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, twice last year.
Yeah. So then your other option is catch a wild swarm. Which is sometimes really a fun thing to do.
Does everybody know what a swarm is?
Sometimes we've gotten swarms where they're this high off the ground.
Oh,
And you just go over with a 5 gallon bucket, shake it in, put your lid on. And sometimes you get them and they're 25 feet up in the tree and they're like, how are we gonna get that one?
Sometimes they're in a chimney.
Oh my gosh.
You know, you get calls that extend.
Those usually are established hives. Those usually aren't swarms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
They've already gone.
trying to do a cutout, I would not recommend doing it until you get some experience. Because it's hard enough to do to keep them alive, even when you know what you're doing. For a beginner, and it's a steep learning curve. We found out the hard way, like the first one we ever did, I didn't know, I used a shop vac.
Oh, boy.
Oh, it sucked them up. Oh, he killed every single one.
Was they all go through the motors?
Well, just getting sucked in there at 100
High
miles.
velocity, yeah.
So,
Have they started swarming yet? I think I've seen.
I think
two
it's gonna
posts.
be real
Yeah.
soon. Yeah, and I think it's gonna be, when it starts, it's gonna be big because I would bet, I haven't really opened our hives up yet, but would bet that they are packed.
We've been bringing pollen in for
They've
3
been
weeks to
bringing
a month.
pollen in for a couple weeks.
Populations inside the hive have
So-
gotten exploding.
If your queen bee is laying 1,500 eggs a day.
She's only up to 2,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
well,
1,500.
but think about it,
days.
think
Solid.
for the first 21 days, there's no new bees coming
That's
up.
right, that's right.
But all of a sudden, it's gonna be 1,500 a day
Right.
and the population's just gonna explode. So you can put up a swarm trap, but we could spend an hour just going into different swarm
Oh,
traps.
yeah.
You could go online, if you bought a nucleus and it comes with a nice box. The nucleus box makes a real nice swarm trap. You can make your own. I've seen people do what they call like a Russian scion, where it's just basically a board on a pole. And you put your swarm lure on the bottom side of it. And the bees will be attracted to it and. You just wait for them to be clustered there, go over with your bucket or your box and shake them in and. A swarm you would treat just like it was a package. You're gonna have to feed them.
They have nothing.
They have nothing, but swarms also build comb really fast.
Very quickly. I bought a homemade swarm trap off of a very nice gentleman last year. And I hung it up in a tree and I wasn't expecting anything. And I think the second we got our first swarm. Thank you, Wahl. It's worked out really well. Yeah.
Yeah, I make all of ours and. One thing I would suggest if you make them, there's a couple different ones. The deeper ones tend to work better.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you want them like almost like 1.5 of this height.
Yep.
For some reason, they like them better. And if you do decide, you can use lemongrass oil is a good swarm lure, or you can buy a commercial like Swarm Commander or Swarm Science. Don't use too much.
Oh, yeah.
You only need just a little bit. If you put too much in there, it turns them away. So like, usually what I do is like, I'll take a Q-tip and just barely dip the tip in there. And throw that in there. It's an easy way to get bees.
Our
Do
swarm
those
was
have to
this
be
high.
high?
What's that?
Do the traps have to be high?
I like,
There's a lot of controversy about that.
I usually put them about 8 feet or so.
I put one up and I searched a lot about like where to put it.
Yeah,
I kept thinking, I am not climbing 10 feet up in a tree once it's going.
Well, the other
So my
thing is,
ear down the side of, I'm hoping eye level is
The
good,
other
so
thing-
mine's about
Yeah.
my eye level,
well, they get heavy,
but I haven't caught anything yet, so.
well, it's still
It's
early.
early.
That's
it's still early.
I mean, we had one, Shannon and I did a cutout for a guy a couple of years ago and he told us. Every year I get 2 or 3 swarms, so I said, well, after we finish the cutout, I said, well, you want us to put a swarm trap up? And I have it, it's like 20 feet up. But when it gets full, it's hard to take, now you gotta try climbing down the ladder,
That's
with
what I
it,
keep
Oh,
thinking.
balancing it, you're like.
If it's full, I'm not gonna be able to get it down, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be where it stays.
We had ours on a rope and a pulley.
That's a good idea.
And we also had a bear visit our swarm trap.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
I didn't even think about that.
yeah, bears are.
So we kind of really good climbers. Foundation. Okay. We'll go into a little bit of. The different bees in the hive. So you have. Drones. Which are the male bees. Basically, their only purpose is to mate with a queen. They don't feed themselves, they don't defend the hive, they don't forage,
It's kind of like guys in real life.
so.
Watch the TV
A
all-
lot of times when you're just starting out and you're looking and trying to find your queen, until you really see the queen and know what she looks like. You'll be like, oh, you see a drone, you'll be like, oh, this, no.
They're bigger than workers.
They're bigger than workers and. Then your general bees are your workers, they go through summertime, they only live 30, 35, 40 days at the most. They do everything in the hive, from cleaning, building wax, defending the hive, feeding the queen, feeding the larva,
Feeding the drones.
making the honey, feeding the drones, yep,
Making the wax.
Yeah,
making the wax, yep,
they produce the wax.
foraging, going out and getting nectar, and then you have the queen. So the queen, she'll, like you said, a good queen will lay 1,500 to 2,000 eggs a day. And her only purpose is to keep that hive going.
I mean, people think the queen is the end all be all and is in charge of the hive. It's a democracy. If she's not doing her job, she's gonna get the boot.
They supersede her.
Yeah,
They will,
absolutely.
they will create new queens to replace her.
Yes, I mean, if she's not sending out the right pheromones, if she's not creating enough eggs, they get rid of
They'll just make a new queen.
About how long does the queen last?
About 3 years, 2 to 3 years, depending.
Okay.
And it depends, sometimes. It all depends, like, when she goes out on her mating flight, depends on how well she gets mated. Sometimes we've had queens in 6 months later, or not even, half the summer, and they're already trying to replace her. So. And. Do we have any picture of each one themselves? Okay, you can see on here. The queen, once you see her, you'll know. You'll be like, oh, how did I ever think any of the other ones were the queen? But they're really good at hiding.
Yes, they are.
They
it. We
are,
would recommend marking your queen,
Yeah.
just so it's easier to see.
That's why she has a little dot on it right there.
Right.
She's obviously a marked queen. It makes it much easier to find them. And it also tells you what year she was
Right.
born.
You don't just randomly, oh, I like pink, I'm gonna do pink.
well, you
pink.
could,
You
You
could.
could, but you shouldn't. Because there is an international chart and it's based on the year number. And this year we will be green.
green again.
And that way you can tell how old the queen is.
Yeah, and it's also makes it so much easier to find her.
Are those chalk markers?
No,
No, they're
it's like a
It's
little,
like a little
Non-
marker, kind of.
Non-toxic paint pens.
I can pass it around if you wanna see them.
We use these to capture the queen.
Yeah.
A lot of people do it by hand. I know.
I just use my tube.
What's that?
I just use the tube. I don't like.
Yeah.
the
These two are also my favorites. They work really good. This one especially because you can't push it up too far to hurt the queen, it stops, it's got foam in it. And then, you open this, you can release her, so you can get her in there. You know, you scoop her right in, and then close this up and gently push her up and then mark her with your marker.
And
And
you
then,
don't wanna coat her in.
no, you're just putting a dot
Dot.
in her upper body, but this is a very cheap substitute for that, but you can squish your queen.
See, I like, those are my favorites.
These right here, these are super easy to get her in.
Yeah, that's why I like.
That's why they're very nice, but I'm so afraid I'm gonna crush one.
And a tip is you should practice dotting before you actually have your queen to do it, because the paint might not be running. So-
Or it's too runny and you end up with
Yeah.
a totally.
Yeah, so-
clean.
Odor.
You know, do it on a board or on a piece of paper.
I usually just whack
you
the
know.
top and I. Okay.
Yeah, tap it.
But you don't wanna go directly to the queen first.
No,
because
until you get it. right.
No.
Good
Use a
question.
couple times.
Well, then the time that you would be trying to get the queen is to mark her, cause somebody gave me one of those clear kind of,
But yeah, the
Yeah.
clips.
and I didn't know what she gave them. for.
I will use.
There is another option where you might want to capture the queen if you were gonna do a split,
Right,
if you're gonna split your hive. You could, there's a couple different ways, if like, when you do a split, say you're trying to do a swarm prevention. You open your hive to do your inspection and you see swarm cells. Well. If you don't do a split and take the existing queen out of that hive, they're gonna
They're
swarm
gonna
on you.
swarm.
So what you need to do is you leave the swarm cells in the existing hive. And you take the queen and a bunch of workers and larvae and put it into a new hive. So if she happens to be on the frame that has your 4 swarm cells on it, you either have to wait till she goes and keep watching her till she goes to a different frame, or you gotta catch her and then put her into the other. So there is other instances where you would wanna catch her and move her.
Genetics. You can have a bad queen.
Oh,
When
yeah.
I say, we had a bad queen,
very hostile queen.
oh my God, and she was laying eggs where the bees that she was producing were,
Incredibly mean.
holy moly, and we were naive, we didn't know, we had 2 hives. One was gentle and we thought the other was just a little irritable. We had someone come and he started out in a bee jacket. He left the hive after 3 minutes, put on a flannel shirt, a full bee suit,
Sweatsuits,
taped his things, put on boots.
duct tape, the whole 9 yards.
And his recommendation to us was kill the queen.
Kill the queen immediately. Let them requeen. She is not good stock. I mean, the bees produced tremendous amounts of
Usually
wax,
those are the ones. that
Tons of
produce the
honey.
most honey.
Oh, they did.
but they were horribly vicious.
Oh, my God.
Well, a lot of that I think comes from, if you get bees from down south, you never know if they have a little bit of that African honeybee genetic.
They had plenty.
And a day one.
Yeah, but they might have got them from, a lot of packages come from Georgia, Florida, Texas, places like
So
that.
that would be a good reason to catch your queen, just to dispatch her.
And sometimes we use this if we have to move frames around and stuff, or we're cleaning and we're removing some frame and we don't want to squish her. You can roll a queen, if she's on a frame next to you and you're putting a frame back in, you can roll that queen and kill her and not even know it. So if we do spot her when we're doing an inspection and we know we're gonna be pulling all the frames and go through it, scraping everything and cleaning the frames off, we will grab her and put her in here and then put her on the hive so the other bees can still take care of her. So there are lots of uses for things like this, not just marking.
I personally don't like those. I just use my tube. and get her. I find it,
Yeah, that's fine.
it's all a matter of preference.
Yeah, this works perfect.
I find it
Same thing.
easier to just get her by that tube and use the foam and push her in real gently.
Did you pick her up with your bare hands?
I usually can't catch her.
Yeah.
If I don't have that tube, I'm like, 'cause on my hands, I don't have as much feeling in my fingertips, all I'm pushing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's my number one worry,
Yeah,
is that I'm gonna panic and, and crush her, so.
so. Okay. Okay, a little fun stuff here. So we're definitely gonna wanna get some protective equipment, because when you see those videos online. of people going and doing inspections on their hives with no bee suit and no gloves?
You
Is it possible? Yes.
And
I
they
wouldn't do
also
it.
know their hives. These are highly experienced
Well,
people normally.
Not only that, they probably don't show you that if it's the woman doing it, that her husband was over to smoke her for 10 minutes, calming the bees down.
I just wanted to mention her. She lives down in Texas and she does cutouts and then all this.
Smile, little pretty girl.
You know, she's blonde, she got the
Blonde hair.
Oh, you know, I'm calm and I'm picking all the bees up with my
She
hair.
goes in with short.
Holy moly,
t-shirts.
don't do that. She doesn't even wear a veil. I mean, you only got two eyes.
Well, they probably don't show you that it took 15, just like anything. It took 15 tries to make that video.
Yeah.
Because the other ones you didn't see where she got stung 25 times.
Right,
Exactly.
so scooping the bees.
Shooting them up with her bare
I
hand.
mean, it's possible. Sometimes I do inspections without my gloves.
I've had hundreds of bees laying on me and not sting me. It obviously happens, I mean, but.
But if you pick the wrong day,
they don't
that
know.
hive that's normally real gentle, all of a sudden you're like, oh, these ones are always real calm and gentle. If you pick the wrong day and the humidity's a little off or the barometric pressure is a little off, and all of a sudden you open that hive up, you're gonna be like, put the cover back on and run.
No perfume, no aftershave,
No
no cologne,
hairspray.
no hairspray. Don't eat the banana, holy mackerel, they hate that.
They do.
Oh, wow, man, they hate that. This is called a double layer insulated bee suit. You can see it's ventilated, yeah. It's actually got 2 layers in it. And they're physical layers to keep, because honeybee stingers are very short. So it protects you by thickness. But it's very, very airy. I don't know if you can see, you can almost see through it.
Bee suits are hot.
I would highly suggest.
Very
the final
hot.
layer.
They're very hot. And they go all the way down to the elastic.
What's that? You said what? I would highly suggest getting a ventilated, whether you go with just a jacket or a full suit,
This is
get a ventilated one, because in the middle of summer, if you're gonna be hot with the ventilated one.
okay.
A tip. Put a baseball hat on, because it pulls this away from your face.
Unless you get around it. Unless you get,
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah, right,
exactly. They can make big round ones so that this doesn't happen.
If you have longer hair, bandana it.
These are the style that we both have. And what I found was it always rested up against my cheeks or my chin. And I was getting stung there all the time
Right.
because they were stinging me through the veil. So we started wearing baseball cap and it keeps it away.
not always.
Yeah.
I wear boots, because when I went in with shoes, I got 100 bee stings from that nasty hive. Velcro, a lot of people use duct tape to close off their wrists and their ankles. If you use Velcro, it doesn't leave that sticky residue.
They're reusable.
I do it on my wrists, I do it on my ankles, and they give you these neat little straps. Don't use them.
Some
Put
people like them.
the boot over it.
No, I put my suit over the boot.
Right, right. This-
That's what she just did, where she put it inside of her boot. That's how bees sting you.
Yeah.
They will go down your pant leg and right into your boot and sting you around the
And
ankle.
once they're in your suit,
Wowie,
there's
you can't run away from that.
no, these are faster than humans. The suits also come with all kinds of little flaps to cover your zippers. If there is a hole
They'll find
anywhere, they will find it and get in your suit. So you
Always double check
definitely-
your zippers, make sure everything's up all the way. There's zippers in the hood. They close from each direction, make sure they're completely closed. On my suit, there's a flap that goes over the zipper.
You want a glove that's gonna go up your sleeve. Because if you wear a short glove, when you're bending, it creates a little hole and the bees have an easy access into your hands. These are goat skin. They say, oh, they're sting proof.
Yeah.
Every glove can get stung through, trust me. I went online just to price out the suits, and you can get them for as low as $29.99 up to $264.99. So just think about what you're doing. And bee suits or the bee jacket,
That's my favorite.
I like this.
Oh, you have a size of obesity.
I'm not going up there without a phone. These range in price from $24.99 to $179.85. I mean, it's just like if you go to Walmart and buy a pair of shorts, or if you go to, you know, a high-end store. Ventilated, that's the thing.
One thing I
really-
would suggest is if you can find someplace local that has suits, it's really nice to try one on.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Because I don't like my suit that I always liked wearing just a jacket with the veil. And Shannon had a full suit and I was just getting pounded all the time, especially doing cutouts. And I bought a full suit and I was like, oh, look at this one, Man Lake, it's a real good suit. I hate it. It's hot, it's way hotter than my jacket was. The veil was like, I actually had to take safety pins and pull two sections of the veil back because the veil was so big, it like almost pointed down at the ground.
wow.
Like, oh, well, what am I gonna do with this thing? And once you have it, you know,
You're
by the
stuck with
time I wore it a couple times and decided that I really didn't like it, can't send it back.
Yeah,
Right.
So it's, I mean, it's not necessary, but if you can find someplace local or find another beekeeper. And, you know, like maybe, hey, can I try your suit just to see how? It is a big help, especially if you're gonna spend a couple $100.
and you have a tendency to put on weight as years go by.
And they're not easy to.
Then your other option is you can, if you're brave,
Yeah,
you can wear just a vest.
I don't wear
Just
these
goes on.
inside the aviary. I will wear these if I'm working on the electric fence and I don't feel like suiting up. And I try to go up in the evening when most of them are in the hive. I will wear stuff like this because bees are used, very fashionable. And you see how it's black in front, that makes it easier to see out. Where the white part is much harder to see out, especially when the sun's out.
Yeah.
Bees have millions of years of evolution in defending their hives from animals. And most animals are covered in fur and they can't be stung. The only places they can be stung are on the nose or in the eyes. So that's why bees will always go for your eyes first.
Face.
Always. So it does not pay to go in with nothing, and you should never go near your bees without some kind of, this one goes over your, you put your arms through it, so it keeps this tight around your upper shoulders and everything, so they can't get in. I think this one, I don't think has that.
No, that just.
Well, actually it does, yeah,
Oh, it does, that's what
Yeah,
those
it's-
before?
should see.
And here's your free tip. You can drink through your veil. You will be thirsty. Take the water up.
Yes, you
I mean,
can.
I used to take a.
You cannot blow your nose through the veil.
No.
Should you
You always
sneeze?
have the itch.
Should you
You always
sneeze?
have an itch when.
Oh,
these
oh,
are
yeah,
always.
absolutely.
Or in my case, I get the bee that's inside and it's like back behind on the back of your head and you're like, is this one in my jacket, in my veil, or? You
I
don't
always-
know.
I always put something like this right underneath my chin, so you know, if I have to sneeze or whatever, I can grab this and do like that. Because sneezing in your veil is very uncool.
This was the best investment I ever made for my husband. It's a neck fan
I
that
sweat a
you
lot.
wear underneath your suit.
I know, it looks stupid, doesn't it? But
Well,
holy
you know,
mackerel,
it's not about fashion.
I love this thing. You reach behind your veil, you push the button, turns the fan on. It's got 6 different speed levels. And the highest speed is like tornado volume. And this makes beekeeping for me very, very palatable. This was like $20.
I know, we spent a lot on it.
All right, so another thing you're definitely gonna want is a smoker.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is the hardest part of beekeeping,
This is
keeping your smoker.
very well, one of the hardest parts of beekeeping. This is your smoker, so what it is you put you open it up. Put some type of fuel in here, I use wood shavings. Only because I'm always working in the shop and I have all kinds of wood shavings and sawdust. You can use rolled up cardboard, you can use pine needles, hay, pine cones. Basically anything you can get, you can buy commercial pellets.
For that, yeah.
You can
Okay.
use, take an old set of jeans and cut it into squares. Lighting it is the trick. I found the easiest way is if you have a propane torch. Just get your torch going and hold it on the side as you're smoking it. It only takes about 30 seconds. And you don't even have to open it up. It'll get whatever you got going inside burning. And actually, someone was just telling me, they actually make a smoker now. That runs off a battery and has an electric heat.
Yeah, it has a
Oh, you were
bellows.
telling me, right?
Yeah, it has a bellows just like that.
Has a
So it only
bellows.
smokes when you press the bellows. And it works like a regular smoker, except it doesn't have this part. It uses the same thing that those
Yeah,
vapor
It has
things.
like a little heating coil in it, so you don't even have to light it. You
Right.
just turn it on. I don't know how much they are.
I had that idea last year.
But
I knew somebody
reason-
would love it.
the reason,
Against that, then?
what's that? Yeah, you can kind of see where.
This color, yeah.
That was the
But it's
best,
stainless steel, you're not gonna
No,
burn
that's not-
through it with a propane torch.
that was the best tip I got from anybody. In the bee club.
And I can't claim,
We liked it.
I can't claim credit for it because I didn't invest
Works
it.
perfect.
Actually, the New York State Bee Inspector showed me that.
Scott.
The reason you're gonna wanna smoke them is it calms them down. And the other thing is that it kind of blocks their attack pheromone.
They do a lot of communication
So,
with each other.
Bees communicate a lot with pheromones,
Okay.
so that's why like an attack pheromone. If they release that attack pheromone, the whole hive's coming out.
Yes.
And they defend it, so when you smoke them, the reason is you wanna not only calm them down. But you wanna kind of block that attack pheromone, like there's times when we'll actually
Oh, yeah.
smoke the sides of our suits,
Oh,
top
yeah.
of our veil. You'll learn what days you can go in the hive, what days you shouldn't. It only takes a couple times to realize that, oh, today's probably not a good day.
Cloudy
It has
days.
been raining.
Cloudy, misty, high humidity.
Cool.
Windy.
I mean, sometimes you have to, because that's the only time you have. You know, I mean. Sometimes you have a limited time frame, so you're like, well, if I don't get it today, I'm not gonna get it till next week,
Right,
so.
you gotta.
But you wanna try and get, you'll learn. As you go, cause it's always different. Some days it's like, oh, today's a perfect day, and you open them up and.
Yeah,
they're
it's not
like,
perfect for them.
Not perfect for them.
And you'll know the temperament of your hive.
Obviously, we showed you the hive tools. There's so many different things you can get into. You have a set of the frame grips,
So the what?
the frame grips.
Yeah.
Now, like he showed you with taking your hive tool and prying it out, once you loosen them up, they make these, you just grab the top of the
Some
frame
people absolutely love
and
it.
hold it. I have them, I don't use it.
I didn't use them either,
It's just another accessory that you can,
but they work.
they do work really good.
But you gotta loosen your frames first.
You still gotta loosen the frame, so.
If you don't break the propolis, you're just gonna rip your frame apart. This I do use. I love this. Real cheap thing. Hooks on the side of your hives when you're pulling frames out. You can set 2 or 3 frames right in here.
Oh, they're actually nice.
Yeah, just set it out, you know, if I'm looking for the queen, or I'm just inspecting, or I wanna see which ones are filled out, which ones aren't, how much.
We'll just give us.
Yeah, it gives you space to move stuff and space so that you can clean, do a little cleaning in there with your hive tool, then you put everybody back in the same order you took them out in. That's another.
That's
nice thing.
important.
Take them out in order, you put them back in order. You don't, that pisses them off.
Yeah.
This is also a gap is that I have found is very, very.
I actually made one. I just
Mike makes everything, he's amazing.
I don't have time. Well, not really,
I was
but
gonna say, no, I don't think we do.
I have enough time, I get stuff like that done. So,
Other gadget. Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
the
This
the
is-
spacers,
Yes, for a 10 frame box, bees will fill out the comb so far. In order to uncap it better and make it easier for uncapping, you can put 9 frames in a 10 frame box. And when you do that, the spaces in between the frames are larger and the bees fill them out farther. So now it's much easier to
you get
uncap
the
it.
same amount of honey.
And this is one of those silly gizmos, but it works. You can put this in here and wiggle it down in and it spaces all 9 of your frames exactly evenly. And it looks silly and I bought it, I thought that it felt silly buying it, but boy, it works perfect. Boom, 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 you know, it's just like that.
Yeah, it makes it easy to uncap.
Yeah, but do you need that? No.
So, we're gonna we should probably get into some hands-on stuff here.
Yeah.
There is some diseases you need to be aware of. There's American foul brood, which is caused by, not a fungus,
Yeah, I know.
spores.
Spores.
Yeah, and American foul brood is really bad, and basically if you get it, you have to burn your hives. Because the spores can live 60 or 70 years.
You can't reuse
And
it.
it's not
You
an
really
option.
shouldn't,
It will spread.
unless you're buying used equipment from someone you know. And trust, well, you really shouldn't buy used beekeeping equipment. Because you don't know if it had foul brood spores in it or not. And like I said, if there's an outbreak of it, there was one last year. Up in, up just outside of Fredonia. And the both people there had to burn all their hives.
Yeah, you don't burn just the one hive,
You
you
burn
burn
them
all.
all. Because you don't know if it's in one, chances are. It's in all of them.
I think you cry when your kids move out. Wait till they come.
European foul brood, basically the same thing that can be treated, can it? Do you know, Walt, if it can be treated? I'm not sure.
They,
I
a
think-
strong hive.
I
takes
think
care of it.
if your hive is strong enough, there is a treatment for that. Chalk brood, same thing, I think there's a treatment for that. If you have good strong hives, you're not really gonna see any of this. Your biggest thing though is right here, all mites. There's all kinds of different treatments for them. You can do what's called, there's a couple ways you can do a mite check. You can take and fill that thing with, it's got a line on it, you fill it with bees up to there and you pour rubbing alcohol. And cover the bees. And then keep swirling it around and it'll kill the mites and they'll all fall down into the bottom.
And then you literally,
You wait about 10 minutes, let all the mites fall down and then you count how many are in there. And there's a formula, it'll tell you how many mites you have per 100.
Divided by
And-
3.
I think the directions that came with mine had it right on there.
Yeah, you're with I think it's a quarter cup or a third cup. I can't remember what it is. But you shake your bees into a box, get them down in the corner, you do this with, you want nurse bees, if possible.
Yeah.
Drones would be the best choice. Shake your nurse bees down in there, down into like a little Tupperware container or something like that. And then you scoop up like a third of a cup or a quarter cup, I can't remember which it is, pop them into here, put the cover on, shake it up. And if you count the number of mites you have, and you divide that by 3. And then that's how many you have per 100 bees, and it does.
That'll tell you if you
all
wanna
300 bees.
Do a treatment
The
or
point is you get 300 bees in there.
it's not.
what we're
it's-
passing around is a test tube that has varroa mites in it. They're
Yes,
dead.
singular.
But you'll see
varroa
how
mite.
tiny they are, so they can devastate your hive.
Once it's dead.
We're not really gonna get treatments because there's so many different treatments. I mean, there's all different. That's just something you're gonna want, because there's different treatments for different times of year.
Yeah.
Some of them are temperature sensitive. So, like I said, we could spend an hour going into different mite treatments, but all that information is out there.
Yep.
The biggest thing is to do a mite check and see, do you really need to treat? Some hives you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
Some hives are far more hygienic. Where they'll actually clean them off each other. And kill them,
Did you see it?
you can take, I like to, when I open up our hive, a lot of times, especially this time of year, you'll see. The difference between worker brood and drone brood. I like to pop a bunch of the drone brood open and check, because that's a real easy place to see the mites. They'll be on, and they're real easy to see when they're on the brood.
They prefer drone brood
It's
because
bigger,
they're bigger and they're in the cells longer.
yeah.
They reproduce, the mites reproduce inside of the closed cell.
Yeah.
A queen will hatch in 16 days, she's the quickest. A worker bee will hatch in 21 days, but a drone takes 24 days before they hatch, so they're in there much longer and the mites can reproduce much more. Much faster.
Okay, so let's get into some fun stuff.
Sweet.
So while we transition, feel free to, maybe we could take like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
absolutely.
Sure.
You can use the
Sure.
restroom, you can get some snacks, and then we will.
Anybody can
Continue.
come up and check out all the different stuff.
What is the shell? That's kind of been done with the guidance, like.
Yeah.
You know, in your area, if you're really, there's a lot of beekeeping supplies. It's gotta be by a lot of.
No, I do this. Okay.
There is a place, called.
Where are they?
Oh, yeah, Wiggers, they're stocking more and more rain stuff.
Right. Runnings, which is a sporting goods type store, they have some.
Sam's had beehive, full beehive.
Sam's Club, but they're in Erie.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, really.
And there are a lot of places locally that stock a lot of stuff. Forgot this.
And Amazon, if you have Prime, shipping is free. Shipping kills you on a lot of this.
I know.
Oh my God, they had like it's like $12.99 if you order a poster.
I just spent like $65 in shipping for Better Bee and I was like, puking. Because I'm so used to Prime, when, oh, I don't like it, I'll just send it back.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is not what I want on Amazon?
We ordered very little from Amazon until we moved down.
Sky or any.
I like blue sky. This is a
Does,
drive.
Tree Maple have some things, Mike said, and they went in there, cause they have, maple syrup thing. I'll have to ask him, cause there might be some supplies that they carry.
Are we done with the
Yes.
presentation?
Sunlight.
Yeah, I know. Let me turn it off so it doesn't blind you.
This guy right over here. He's forgotten more about bees than most of us will ever do.
I don't think so.
So you were a professional beekeeper for a long time?
I'm professional. I teach fifth grade concentration field days
Oh.
for 50 years.
And I might frame some.
Yes, you might be getting them.
We're gonna put the extractor, leave it down on the floor, right?
I'm assuming, yeah, it's hard to crank when it's up here.
That's fine.
Plus it walks.
I think they're never balanced. So we've tried multiple methods for. Including sitting on it, laying across it.
Yeah.
They shake like crazy. This, well, we can wait until everybody gets in.
They're cheese and crackers and cookies. Non-gluten salad.
Coffee over here.
There's some instant coffee and there's some tea. There's some instant coffee, there's some tea.
We had 10 buildings full of boxes. There's some kind of open, you know,
Fire and.
That's what my dad likes too.
Okay.
Does Heather have Canva? We have.
Yeah.
That's right, so.
Like I said, part of it. Yeah. That's crazy.
I know, I was gonna ask you, I'm like, George, you're fine there.
Yeah. I don't know. If that next meeting that we have, like next week.
Yeah.
We can figure out the board's plans to stop any other number or.
Okay.
Here, but I told Sarah. And Heather's looking.
Okay.
And I told Sarah to probably get back to you.
Weather for like 3 days in a row.
Specifics. I told her the phone number. And I said, typically, 45 minutes. Is
Everything in a red light.
talk about anything. So I'm like, so maybe I can verify a little bit more.
Okay.
So we know
Roosburg
maybe
is south.
she has any
east
specific
of
things she's gonna
James.
talk about, so that
It's
press release that comes out like.
Yeah, I'll work with Laura, because we have a format for the press release. So usually they, press release is like a name, and then I hear your mom, and starts to send them out, so. I wonder if she knows that process.
Yeah, so, yeah, probably, yeah. I maybe we can get into that a little bit.
They're not locally grown.
Yeah.
Next week, we have our meeting, we can talk about that.
Okay, yeah, that's.
No, I.
It's spring loaded, so you don't break your arm.
already had one this year. I'm trying to think that, we go out again, we're like, oh, it's in a month. I mean, 1 year. We do have a dog, but she's a husky and, I have.
We're afraid of the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. so it's gonna be-
Yeah, I'm glad that's gonna extend it out, and that'll be nice. I always wondered why they didn't add any others. It's still nice in September. I mean, in the beginning, we were really, sketchy, but it's September.
I love it so off with all my heart. It makes it nice. Like I said, the July one.
Protective. Okay.
She's easily distracted, able to do what I want to do. Or even pushing honey down the side.
Clean.
No, I gotta treat the baby.
It's an auto parts.
As much as I'd like to do.
It's spreading Bondo for auto body
Oh,
filling.
I hear that.
They work fantastic for cleaning, wiping down the sides and getting
Do a
all
little
the.
too much and a little too much.
There's another method, but this is,
I don't want to.
yeah, this I think works much better. And they're very, very cheap.
Yes, you don't wanna go there. So we're not just.
Oh, it's a surprise.
Getting a package back.
Meeting on my.
Yeah.
And then
I have to
a
show
new
you.
again,
Because I can hold all the stuff. you
But it's
can
one of my
read.
buddies. He gets them from West
It's
Virginia.
really different.
It's
not-
That's good.
Picture of where it's different.
We want to build a horizontal.
Yeah, kind of.
Highly insulated.
Yeah, so.
But I think a lot of horizontal hives don't make it because they're not well
So
insulated.
this will be your first year.
That's just opinion. I can't prove it. but-
I think the other one, yeah.
Kevin Ryan, he wants to build one with actual wool insulation. He says, you know anywhere I can get wool? I said, boy, I know a lot of Amish people. I brought him 4 big giant bags of wool. He goes, holy.
Okay, yeah.
And you guys, so. 4 weeks I did. Oh, yeah.
I'm just waiting on Mike, so if you wanna get started. Yeah. I have, but I'm not, so I don't. Do you want people to come up?
Well, yeah, it's more than welcome. Yes, absolutely.
I think it's like a.
No, I didn't say I was going to,
I
for sure.
Anita,
So this is a camera that I'm trying to capture it, so just
I don't, no.
watch out for that guy.
I,
Because of the importance of it.
Do people come up?
Okay.
Yeah, if you want them to, maybe,
if you look, because I said honey,
Yes.
whenever I
Yes,
drive
dear.
with Amish and I say honey, it's like, my friend Levi always goes, yes, there.
Oh.
All right, what we're gonna do now is do a little hands-on demonstration. This is a hand crank extractor.
Yeah.
This is what we use to extract the honey from the frames and just use centrifugal acceleration to spin it out. And this is a 2-part unit. I'll explain what it's very quickly. I don't want to eat up a lot of time. If you look, this has a conical bottom and it's coned so that the everything spills inside towards the outside holes. And then it drains down into that bucket below that has a screen in it.
I mean, tip it up.
No, that's okay. So that bucket down there does some initial straining and catches all the honey. Then what we'll do is when we're done extracting, we set this up on the table. And then drain this into another 5-gallon bucket that has other filters in it.
How much does that thing,
What's that?
how much would that thing cost?
Today,
Yeah.
probably about
300.
30%.
You can buy ones that don't have the bottom, that just have legs.
Right,
You
They're
can get
cheaper.
2-frame, 4-frame.
right.
Shannon and I have an 18-frame motorized one.
Hoo-ha. When you want to extract your frames.
I hope everyone's arms are feeling strong. You're all gonna spend on the extractor a little bit.
These are paint filters. You can order them on Amazon. You can get them at Sherwin-Williams. They were made for 5-gallon buckets for, you pour paint in it and you strain your paint and they come in different grades. We typically use the Corthus one, put it in our bucket like that. And then this is our extractor table. A lot of people do it with a stick with a nail in it and you gotta balance it, hold it stable while you're doing it. I hate that. To me, that seems incredibly unproductive, so I went this way.
I would suggest if you use these, don't bother getting the 200 or 400 microns. Because if you try and get the honey through this one, you'll be like, it'll take you.
3 years.
Yeah, like fill this, if you fill this container up today, maybe by tomorrow it'll all go through.
Yeah, maybe.
The 400s are a little faster and 600s really all you need. You don't want to filter too much because you'll filter all the good stuff out of it.
Exactly. You don't want to put it through like a cloth or, a really, really fine filter, because you want to leave the pollen and things like that. This is normally how we would do our setup.
Have a
This-
bucket of water and a rag because it's sticky.
Yeah, we keep a bucket of water with a bunch of rags in it. That way we can wring them out and wash your hands off and stuff. This is my extracting table. This is how I like to do it. I like to have it set there so I don't have to,
Your way. Sorry.
no, you're not. I was looking for. Okay, sharp tools. Danger. This is Anita's favorite way to uncap. When you're uncapping, wax and honey will start falling off of all of this, so you have to do it over something.
This one's not.
And you can make these out of Tupperware, Rubbermaid, anything that you can, if you're handy, you can make these out of anything, you don't have to buy one. I like this one because I don't have to hold it. Anita likes to use this as a scratch. There's different ways to use it. You can dig it in this way and uncap this way. Anita likes to do the scratch technique. I find that does a tremendous amount of damage to the cells. Somebody doesn't share that opinion. 2 beekeepers, 2 different opinions. What a surprise.
I like
like
the scratch method too.
Do you really?
I do.
This is the tool that I love.
And this one's not even totally full.
Oh, yeah.
That one.
They might even get a demo on how much they weigh when they're light, how much they weigh when they're full. This is the way I like better. What a difference, huh?
Now picture 10 of them in a
Yeah, so and that
box
one's,
that you're trying to
that
let.
would probably have
Yeah.
2 or 3 more pounds in it if it was full.
Stay at the gym.
Full supers and full deeps
Yeah.
are very heavy, very heavy
Okay,
when they're full.
who's
Now-
coming up to?
I like this tool.
Did you?
It's okay. Always.
These, it's like, yeah, They tell you don't touch the razor wire because it's really, really sharp, and then I did it anyway.
That's why you should use the scrap.
These are very, very, very sharp. Now it has this paddle on it, and you're supposed to use it sideways, and what the paddle does is it runs across the capping, and depending on the angle that you hold it, it just removes the capping. And it slices through very, usually 2 passes, you could do a deep frame. This is my preferred tool. What is this?
Yeah, we use the same thing.
Right, now
You
this,
can use a knife.
this station unfolds and it allows you to stack frames here to get ready. If she's pulling stacks or things out of a box, she can set them here. I can uncap. The honey and the wax are draining down into here. The screen catches most of the wax. The honey fills up this container, which I will close. I don't like to keep these closed when I store them because it compresses your O-rings and they become hard and then they leak. So I always try to leave them open when I'm storing equipment.
Now, you don't need anything fancy. like
No,
that.
you absolutely don't.
They make these, you can use a kitchen for,
Yeah, absolutely.
all you want is, well, we're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Go
Who
for it.
wants to try first?
You can also.
I gotta do is just.
Yeah, you want to hold the rice.
Yeah, all you have to do is hold the frame. You are gonna get sticky doing this. There's no way around it.
So,
Real honey does crystallize, not the stuff you buy at Walmart. You know, a lot of major distributors admit that 60% of the honey that they sell is imported honey. And since we put tariffs and prohibition on honey from China,
this one.
because they're selling things that aren't honey. The first they were using sugar syrup, then they were using a rice
Some
syrup.
of this.
And so we finally put an embargo against Chinese honey. I think South Vietnam was exporting 5 metric tons of honey every year.
That's
The year of the embargo, all of a sudden the exports out of South Vietnam were
That's gonna
50 million
That would
metric
take it off
tons.
easier, I guess.
I'm like, come on, nobody knew that was all coming from China. So you gotta be very careful with the stuff you're buying. If you're not buying it from a local beekeeper, you're probably not getting real honey.
Where you're getting honey mixed with rice syrup.
Exactly.
Chicken feather.
Oh,
So
question.
we have a lot of jars of honey that was like raw honey, good honey, but it's solidified.
Yes.
So we
Heat it
just heat it
slowly.
up,
Just gonna.
yeah.
Slow.
Okay.
Slowly and gently, like this.
You don't want to put it in boiling
Some-
water.
It looks just like that.
What's the name of the place that we sold our honey to this year, last year?
That's all you want.
Oh.
This is one of their products that they sell in pigments and stuff. This is their blueberry honey. But you notice how that's all solidified?
Yeah, but
Heat it up
it's,
slowly. If you don't want to destroy the natural things in it, don't go beyond, what, 115, they say?
With a,
I
with a
pushed
fresh
it to 120 degrees, and it takes time. It's gonna be a long, slow process.
so it's
but if
just
you-
not made for our generation, cause everything is made out of convenience, and we have to heat this up to.
Yeah, you can put this in a microwave, put it on full power for like 2 minutes, but you'll kill a lot of the good stuff that you really want. It'll still taste like honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That long, really, even the
But
microwave.
yeah, see that sticker
You
that's
can
on
do,
there?
if you have like an.
That should be on every,
It's only gonna be a little bit.
We have jars that we bought like from Walmart
Yeah.
that 3 years out are still not solidifying, because it's not real, all real honey.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to come up and give it a crack? Come on.
Come on, get sticky.
Yeah, go get the dangerous ones.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, the boy one. That one's just like.
It is, it is,
Yeah.
Now, depending on the angle that you hold that, you'll take more or less, so it's just something you have to do by feel. Before you hit your belly.
Oh,
Yeah, right,
yeah.
okay.
Now, if comb is warmer, and a lot of people raise the temperature in their bee rooms, some people have bee rooms where they do this. They'll warm the room up to like 85. If Anita had her way, our cabin would be 90 all year long. That would be ideal for doing this because honey flows like water when it's warmer, and your wax is much softer. Might
You
you
still have some.
Yeah.
You're just sticking in the right.
You wanna hold it.
Sweet. It's nice.
That's why I love that thing. So handy.
And what you see on the top of the frame
Bottom's gonna
is
be.
the propolis.
Well,
And it will,
not this.
no, not that.
So
This
if you
other
get up
stuff.
like right
But
here.
you can feel how sticky it is. It will get on your clothes and it doesn't come off. So. Bee suits. You don't wanna wash them in detergent
I'll need these
because
back, though.
detergents all have odors to them for the most part. Oxy,
There you go.
These ones are tough because they're a little,
and you soak them.
so this was actually.
See, now you
So bad. Oh, yeah, all you want is that cap off. Just that
You
cap.
can go down.
You can go either way, you don't have.
Direction doesn't matter.
You can go any way you want,
Yep.
or you can use a scratcher.
The base of the
No,
one is
it-
like
it happens.
Pretty flat, right?
It's
So you're
not-
not gonna.
It's not the end of the world, the bees will fix it.
If that comes
Right.
sits in there at the start.
Yeah, you're just, when you're cutting it off, the way that you're trying, you're just putting the top
Well,
off.
it's
and
wax,
the
right.
Starts
wax that
working.
they have.
So there's a hierarchy.
And then I use the wax. top.
Bees 1 to 2 days old are the maintenance people. They go around and they.
Then you're not taking.
And they check everything is like the water. And then probably takes a very deep bend out.
And then a lot of people, what they do is they'll take a brush and they'll paint the wax on to their fragrance. And when you force that back to the bees.
Okay, tilt it up a little bit, so you're not digging in so deep.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if you dig
And some
in.
people even the wax, you kind of eat it.
That's very good.
Once you start, it takes a little bit of a learning curve. Once you do a couple of them, you'll be like, okay, yeah, I mean, like slicing.
Yeah.
When you got like
That's what's
40
great
of them
about
sitting
plastic
over here, you're
foundation,
like,
you're
well, I
just
gotta
putting
go a
the
little
cap
faster.
off the top of
Yeah.
it, then once it's off, it's thinner, it'll use
You get the
centrifugal
hang of it
force, the
very
honey will
quick.
come out,
Really
and
quick.
you, that
Scratcher.
wax is still on there, and you put it back in your hive, and they don't have to.
How far do you
back
take
up.
it down?
You know, all you need to do is break.
So if you
cap,
had
break
a
that
wax
cap off.
foundation, they can't take that centrifugal force, so
There's all
a lot of
different
people,
ways.
they'll do is they'll squeeze their honey.
Anything that
wax
gets
out,
this,
or
this.
Squeeze the wax to get the honey out, and you have to melt it.
Which the bees have
And then
spent
you can
many
brush it back on.
hours packing.
Yeah.
Well, and then you don't have a plastic foundation, but that's what's nice about, like, those cappings, you can reuse. them and come back on.
So the wax you're collecting,
You're
that
right,
just
yeah.
like,
I dropped frames.
from like the little after that's coming off.
Yeah.
or You're not deterring it so much with it.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Yep, the cappings
Yeah,
that you
I
just
don't mind
took
the
off,
zero dirty.
we would
Exactly.
use those and I melt
Hey,
them
hold
and
on.
make candles, or you can, sometimes we'll
Another
paint them on to the hives. But Mike and I do a lot of cutouts too, and we
Who's up next?
kind of use that.
You're in a
Cut out
beekeeper,
layers.
you need to know how to do that.
Yeah.
If you have one with frames, is there really a reason? to cut it?
This extractor will hold two
Keep it
bee
going
frames
It's like
or
all-
media
yeah,
frames.
Going.
The only thing is, you have to, you'll only extract one side, then you have to remove it, turn it around, put it back in, and extract the other side.
So it's, it warms.
So
up.
there's these.
Ooh.
That's pretty good, honey.
Got a temperature control on it.
I love
I
honey.
don't know how it works, I've never used it. But supposedly they work pretty good.
This is the biological equivalent to that one. You have to
You
do
don't really
that.
use
Yeah,
that one.
just gotta hold on to it.
I have used, nights like that, and they do work very nicely.
It works real nice if
Just
you have, if your
spray
frames are
it,
nice
yeah.
and thick.
Right.
Cause you can lay this right on across the wood on the frame and just.
You can see where trying to uncap with a knife like this is very difficult if it doesn't stick out very far. And that's where a lot of people go with 9 frames in a 10-frame box, or 7 frames in an 8-frame box, so they build it out farther.
So when you said you get the same amount of honey.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yes, you
That's
do,
their-
you do. You absolutely do.
The volume is basically the
Literally the
same.
same.
All they do is they just make the
Bigger
cones better.
cells. Yeah.
So it makes it a little,
completely makes sense
little
to do
easier to
that.
uncap. Anybody else?
I did it on one hive one year and let the other one 10 frame. I got the same amount of hive or same amount of honey out of each super. It was, cause I waited all my frames. I weighed them before I uncapped them. I weighed them after I spun them out. To let I get to weigh exactly how much honey I was getting out of each frame. I was very scientific and methodical about it. And I came out with like it's almost exactly the same. It's just a matter of what's easier for you.
I like this uncapping tank. It's really nice. You don't need one. I bought a used $10 stainless steel sink.
Oh,
And
good,
just
yeah,
Made it,
perfect.
took some 2x4s and made a frame to set it in.
It's perfect.
Just put a drain out the bottom of it, you put your bucket underneath it. Long as it holds your frames, I mean, you can do it. Anyway, you can do it into a tote, you could do it into,
Bob made one out of a, like a Rubbermaid container,
Yeah.
a tote, 17-gallon tote or something. And it was perfect. I think that came from Blue Sky as well as this, and I believe that was about $250 to $300. Which I thought was outrageous for a little bit of plastic and stainless steel, but. I was in a hurry. Oh, you got a loan from the front, that's where your clearance is.
okay,
Now, for the fun part,
How many frames does that hold?
this holds 2 deets or 4 mediums. Put these cards down because it spins so fast, it'll suck you right in there. You're flinging honey out and a lot of times it can come out, but we do run sometimes without covers on it. Now, this has a clutch on it, a spring-loaded clutch. So it engages, and as soon as you let go of the handle, it pops out. Because once you really get this thing cranking, it's kind of hard to maintain that, especially if you're old and overweight and really out of shape. So, you know, you can let go of the handle and it's not gonna break your arm. So if anybody wants to give it a shot, you want me to do a quick demo? Yeah, sure.
Crank it up.
You got,
You see how it's pushing the handle in?
yes,
It has to engage, otherwise,
push it in there, lock it, hold it, then I grab the handle. I try to push in on it a little bit. I'm also trying to stabilize this.
yeah, that'll,
These frames will not weigh the same amount. So this will shake around and vibrate a little. So I try to support this a little bit. Then I'll just give it a spin. Now, you don't have to go super, super fast. If you look in through the top here, you can see things flying out of it. Honey's already flying out of the sides. See, it looks like little clear strings
yeah.
as it's hitting the side, but you take this off. Just don't stick your hands in there. It's like the school bus used to tell you, the school bus driver, keep your arms and heads inside the window at all times.
Put your.
Yeah, no,
face closed and open your mouth. That's all I want.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
You
put
know
honey-
who's gonna clean this tomorrow? The bees.
The bees, yeah. After we, now see, I'm gonna wait for. it
Your
to slow down.
equipment, don't spend a ton of time trying to wash it and stuff. Get out what you can as far as your honey. Stick it out, not near your house, it's away from your house, and the bees will make it immaculate for you.
And it won't clean the wax out, the wax will stay, and if I can give you the best tip, one of the best tips I ever learned was hose it out with ice cold water.
Yeah,
Do
don't use
not
hot.
use hot water. With cold water, everything will pop right off, it'll rinse right out, and you'll be going, holy mackerel. Do not use hot water. We'll go back to spinach. You don't have to go any much faster than that. I mean, when I first got this thing, I was trying to hit work dry.
Oh, yeah. He's a lot of fun to work with.
A little intense. And feel free. I would say rest your hand here if you're lefty, like someone I know. Just turn it around.
How
You know.
long do you have to do it?
Well, you can figure that out by looking, pulling them and looking in them. And if you're spinning it and you're not seeing anything coming out anymore, then you're probably done and it's time to rotate these.
Yeah, you gotta.
Once you're done here, you have to pick these out, turn them around and put them back in again. All right, remember, you can let go of that handle at any time. There we go, I'll help you hold that. But it is gonna take, the slower you go, the longer it's gonna take to spin it out. What?
so spin it till your arm falls.
I have, and it's hard putting it back out.
That one's nice, at least that one doesn't bounce around.
Well,
Our hand.
yes,
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah, we had a big one. I just have to hold on to it, wrap myself around it. like-
You're looking right. Oh, there you go.
They're a big electric one. You gotta start.
I know.
Oh, yeah, I don't wanna put your fingers down.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know what it is. I'm just being. On the very first day, that's the first thing we called. I said, I'm gonna find out sooner or later. I just find it out in the open right now.
Nope.
But you can see how they can shake around a lot.
Well, it depends on what you wanna do.
Yeah,
like
business or person.
Sports bins,
It's-
make sure that's.
When we had 35, it was.
Yeah, there you
like,
Yeah.
Especially like during the summer.
Doesn't matter which direction you go in.
You're doing
I
a lot of
look-
inspections.
Silly question.
You're splitting, you gotta keep on.
Yeah, you're-
It's not-
Once a year.
Only in case like nine.
Is like typically.
That's all right.
So I know the Lamontas, they have a
You
bee
do,
and they have 135 hives right now.
Let's take a look, see how we're doing here.
Around us, beside, wood.
Now, there's a clear side and then there's another clear side. This is how you want to.
Well, you have.
Still very, very heavy.
Okay.
So-
So you feel like choose when they have more and.
Does it really
it
well?
must do really well. And you
Whether
split
if you're in the
them.
northern or the
So
southern
it's
hemisphere.
like free. Free hives there too. And-
Well,
Yeah, you'll have to enter my year.
It's like slant. Vertical.
Yeah, if you have any questions or, we're.
You'll see the.
Okay, yeah.
Goes this way. Right. It's absolutely right. You're right.
Yeah.
The city.
So, this way, right? Yep. That's-
And you can.
Yep.
And then you get.
Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
Drop that by flipping the thing over or whatever, turning it around. Yeah. That's right. There is a slight slant. They don't make their cells completely horizontal. It is a slight slant.
Working on our produce.
Okay.
Yeah, no, so that was
Yeah, I just have a house, yeah.
Yeah.
3 miles.
Yep, we have 7 sales.
We're gonna make horse.
I was this close, I wanted to get a doggy bee trap, and then I opted for.
Or even if you just want to.
He likes to eat my chickens, so I can't have them together right now.
Mine's here, okay. We grew up together, so she was in grade.
Yeah.
With the chickens.
Oh, yeah,
We have a mom had a farm and now I got separated. And I think she
I couldn't have
thought
taken them from the
that they
swarm
were
box
hurting
and put them in
the
the tank.
his mom
So
was
they were
walking
gone right
the baby,
That's
they
what
were
I
separated.
think I
And
got
she's
fine.
been
3
like,
feet or 3 miles. So you
but she's never, they just stay with her all day. and-
So put your fingers on it.
I do.
That's your car, right?
Yes, yeah, and I'm actually doing cut flowers from here, so that's what I'm growing. Yeah. So, yeah, I started one year dahlia, snapdragons, and. Okay, and you can see different varieties too.
Yeah, I mean, they're just, they're.
Yeah, I went a lot with, ladies over the last couple years, nothing too crazy, but. Cause I gotta win my, the having all my everything set up. I'm getting.
The perennials, you dig them up, multiply.
Yes.
It's so fun.
So I'm starting to get kind of back into it, and I just want that, yeah, so I just like before. So I have that.
No, it's like, looking for like terrace, dig them up and exactly. You gotta cut them and they all have eyes. I started to find my baby. Our season. And we had it, it was level for season. House that's going up. Of course, we're in the basement.
But I'm.
A couple that are too big, they're like this big, and we have blooms that are starting, and they can't pull them out. Our problem. So, yeah, so I just said it inside, make it.
To be honest.
Yeah, they can go. Okay, I get it. Yeah, I learned it. I was faster. Well, it's yours. It's just outreach. It's like a garden. I moved. So it takes. We had one. We had to have somebody come get it a couple years ago. Good. So we don't.
you know.
Something.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We've already put it up, but I think part of it's also wondering if
I saw it. It's 3 years ago.
Okay.
We have some one guy. Yeah,
And so I ended up with a pretty,
from the bee.
just north of the city.
Okay.
I got 70 leads.
Yeah,
right.
They could ask for 6
One of those?
penny. We're trying. Oh, he's on this year. He's a sweet guy. Just crazy. You know, he didn't need to get out of
I know, one guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He raises the temperature. to
So, I
100.
mean, you spend.
Yeah, I got, well, I got a different share. So, yeah.
We're gonna try.
I'm going to some came out. Normally you extract things like spring and fall when it's warm out, so when you're normally in cold, you're taking salmon stuff, it's like butter. It's like right on, and the honey comes out, so it's warm. This gets so cold. It's a little. This was from fall, so it would have been golden brown, couple asters.
That's a light in it.
Probably
And
something.
just leave the light bulb on and get like 105 degrees in there. It just takes a while.
We had a lot of Japanese now, and that can show our honey. You're right on Tonawanda Creek, and wild there. You know, invasive, and you don't taste like it, but I just.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, yeah, I would have.
I didn't get big first.
Oh, okay.
I let it drain and have the half. And I had,
Well, I think.
basically have to tell it, I put the screen on it. So you have to use clean the rest of the money. Then you take the milk and come out and do whatever, make candles.
So cold.
Tapping wax is actually the
Yeah.
cleanest wax.
I started, I can keep them.
And renew this link.
If anybody needs to get a hold of us and ask any questions, I put our home phone number and my cell phone number there. Because we're not home, I always have my cell phone on me. I didn't put Anita's cell phone on because she just leaves it on the table.
Getting text.
This is late.
Alright, yeah.
Oh, it smells so good over here.
It's really good.
That's
Like when the ant does that. Look at the size of this cat's eyes.
Are you from Penn? My son lives there.
From where?
Right there, waiting for you.
No.
From Jamestown. Fall.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh, good.
I work in Jamestown.
she says they have like community.
We visited last year.
Oh,
In Maine.
Yeah.
By the river.
Yeah. They said it was by the.
Yeah, it's by Fletcher.
Oh.
Oh, one last thing.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
You have to look on.
Oh, we.
Yeah.
One last thing.
Okay, we visited
All
last
right,
year.
we're gonna wrap up soon. Mike has something else to say.
Chautauqua County Beekeepers Club. At their next meeting on the second Thursday of May. At Fluvanna Community Church on Fluvanna Avenue. Our main topic is gonna be swarm catching. You don't have to be a member to attend. It's open to the public. If you wanted to join, membership is $10, but it's open to the public. If you wanna get some tips and tricks on catching swarms. Stop in.
$10 for a whole year, that's outrageous.
That, and thank you all for coming.
Or you can come for free and just.
We also have a few more leaf classes before we kind of take a break for the summer. So on May 9th, we're having a giddy up getaway equestrian agritourism class. If you're interested in like hosting people on your land,
like through Hip Camp or other platforms. So that should be a really good conversation. That's in Dewitttville at a farm, Mid Meadows Farm. And then, brambles and high tunnels. We're having that at the Clairol Research Station, in Portland on May 14th. And then on May 29th, we're having a session on bats, location to be determined. So, if I have your email, I will send this out, and you can also find it on our Facebook page. But thank you all for joining. This has been really great, and thank you to our awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine, the more you get into these, the more interesting.
That would be
yeah.
so-
So what are other towns doing? It'd be like, what are
Yes.
percentages?
It'll be like-
So there's a lot of community gardens that are waiting right now that you're looking for master gardeners.
That's
That
awesome.
need them to take care of them. I could, all the time, you know, if someone's heading up, but they're trying to.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. Janet Gordon's, she's at the Audubon, she maintains their kitchen garden. So she weeds and plant things and takes care of it, but she loves the later, the kids come in and teach about it. So I would say after something, that's something that unexisting class there, or or talk to some of the other members there, we can try to provide some education.
Yeah.
Because we wanna also let community know that it's not far. Yeah. Sure about it. There's like Bush Elementary, is another one I trip on. There's a few different ones that, and then there's schools that are starting to implement different community gardens, and I get calls all the time asking